Hey guys, quick one today. This is actually going to be, well, I wouldn't say it's not going to be different, but the way that I arrived at this insight was actually pretty interesting. So, ever since I started this new format with doing, kind of the storytelling format, I kind of tell stories and I reflect on them and try to gain insight or make connections or whatnot. So as I've transformed to doing my podcast in this way and doing just solo sessions, I've been really excited about it because it's just easy for me. I can just jump on here whenever I want. I don't have to worry about like getting ready for a podcast, preparing, researching a person, developing questions. I don't have to worry about anything like that, and so I can just jump on here whenever I want and just speak. And that's kind of what I used to do with Instagram. I used to make videos and I used to have little daily messages and posts and things like that. Um, but what's interesting is since I've transformed over to this new format, I've been really excited and I've been staying consistent with it, which is some good momentum. You build on that momentum and then it starts feeling better and better and better. But here's what I realize. I have just tried to make two more episodes today that I failed at. And when I say I fail, what I mean is I start talking and I just don't feel like I'm in a flow. I feel like I'm forcing it. I feel like I'm not thinking clearly, or I'm almost like making something up to sound smart. It's kind of a weird feeling. It's a very forced, inauthentic feeling. And the thing is I've already recorded one episode earlier today that just kind of came up randomly, organically, and I did it, and it was great. And I felt such a flow. After episodes like that, I always feel such an amazing release. It's like like I just let some steam out. I like touched a part of me that's so authentic and genuine when I go through an episode in a certain way. But what I realized is I've had a couple of those lately because I've been doing this and I've been posting them and I've felt great with them. But then when I start to feel that momentum train, I start to get greedy with it. And I start to then act upon every single thought that I have or every single story that comes up, and I try to get it on, an episode because this is valuable too. And I almost start becoming greedy with that flow state and believing that I can kind of generate it anytime I want, and it's almost egoic in a way. Like everything that I say is important, and so I need to get it on an episode, and then I just end up acting prematurely, trying to speak on things I haven't thought out, things that may feel forced or just immature thoughts, and then it just doesn't work. And so it brings me back to this thought of you can't force things and you can't push things. And this is an ongoing theme in my life that I keep coming back to, where I do something, I get into a good groove, I get into a good flow, and then I just become greedy with it, and I want it all the time, and I chase it all the time, and I seek it all the time. And then when I can't get it all the time, I realize that I can't because it's just not realistic or sustainable. Then I burn out because I get discouraged and I get confused. Like, why can't I perform like this all the time? Why does it only come up sometimes? Why can I be in a flow today and I can't, I couldn't get in one the last 3 days? Or I want to talk about this now. How come my mind is foggy? Like I almost have this desire for consistently being able to be perfect or at the top of my game or optimal. And when I can't get that, it's like I turn into a child and I just get bitter and I'm just like, well, fuck this. I shouldn't just do this then because something's wrong with me. But I realize that's not how things work. You can't be greedy with that state. That state comes when, when you set the conditions for it. I largely believe that you can help generate a flow state by creating certain conditions, prioritizing certain parts of your self-care, sleeping well, eating well, nurturing your relationships, paying attention to yourself and changing bad habits, all that stuff. You can certainly create the conditions for the flow state, but there's also a certain X factor to it that I don't think we fully understand yet. There's something about the flow state that feels very divine, feels weightless, effortless, and whenever I can get into it, I just feel I feel divine. I mean, I feel like God. That's the best way I can explain it, and I don't want that to sound cocky or anything like that, but I just feel one with everything, and I'm just in a flow, and it feels fucking great. But you can't be greedy with that state. You just can't, because like I said, there's some sort of X factor, or I believe there's some sort of X factor to it that we can't fully choose, or we can't decide on. We can't just call it on command or prompt it to come up. It kind of needs to generate on its own and open the door, or at least kind of whisper in our ear, pat us on the back, and just say like, hey, I'm kind of like, I'm here, I'm coming right now. You get those signs where it's like, now it's time for me to create. I certainly get that feeling, and I get kind of jitters when it happens, but I can feel that feeling come on. And it's interesting to pay attention when I'm trying to generate that feeling, but it's not organically coming on. It's like I want it to, and I feel that strain and that pressure and that force, but it's just not working. And that's when you gotta be able to take a step back and say like, all right, like, I'm not feeling it today. This just isn't working today, and maybe today's not the day. And you accept that, and you don't resist it, and you don't criticize yourself for it. You don't hate it, and you accept it. And that's how it is. I actually watched, I think it was it Wiz? I think it was Wiz on the Joe Rogan podcast. And he was talking about how he makes music, and he just he makes it when he makes it. It's like the way he said it was like it just happens, and it happens when it happens. And some days he's not feeling it, and he just doesn't make music. It was just that's how it was for him. He didn't even think twice about that. It was just that's how it was, and that was pretty cool to see. It was like, oh wow, like, maybe I should think like that too, and not force the flow state. It is what it is, and it comes when it comes. And all you can do is when it taps on your shoulder, you can just say, oh hey, welcome, and I'm gonna go with this right now, and be grateful when those situations come, because sometimes they're few and far between, and sometimes they happen all the time. You just never know. So little side insight, as I was trying to force certain episodes to come out, this one organically happened, and I totally feel like I'm in a flow right now, which is so cool, because I couldn't talk about the other things that I was trying to talk about in the last 2 times I recorded or tried to record. I just couldn't get through them. I had to stop. I just said no, and I stopped the recording. I'm like, this isn't right. This isn't it. But now I was able to generate this, and it feels good. It's just crazy how that works when you speak truthfully, when you speak from that divine state, that effortless, clear state. It's powerful. And then when you think about it, it's like, if you're trying to force a flow, that's your ego coming into play, because the flow state can't be forced. So the takeaway really is, if you're forcing anything, it can't be generated from that flow state, that divine state, that higher state. It just can't be. But what's crazy is I know that. I mean, I'm hearing myself say that right now. I'm listening to myself say that. But then when I look at my life, there's so many things I push and so many things I force, and I'm sure it's largely habitual. I learned it, conditioned that way, I'm sure, growing up, society, my parents, etc. But it continuously amazes me how many things we know and how many things we say, how often we can tell ourselves certain things, but we still do them, and we keep ourselves in these unproductive patterns, and we push and we shove ourselves and we add strain to the process. We do this and we know we probably shouldn't, but we continue to do it anyway. And just from doing this episode, it's really opening my eyes in what it feels like to not push something, because I literally just pushed for 2 episodes that just felt so forced and so inauthentic, and this just feels totally like the opposite of that. And I'm trying to pay attention to why that is. I'm trying to pay attention to why the first 2 messages felt inauthentic and this one feels authentic. Well, I was trying to talk about other people, first of all, in those other first 2, so maybe that's something. I feel confident speaking about myself because I mean, that's what I know. I mean, that's what I sit in every single day. It's my inner world. But maybe I was afraid to talk about other people because of the judgment, or I don't know. It just didn't feel like it was being birthed from a genuine place. That's the best way that I could explain it. You guys know when you're speaking to someone, or you're speaking to yourself even, because I'm speaking to myself right now in a way. You know when you feel that feeling inside of you, inside of your gut, that something feels off and you can't explain it. It's just like, nope. You get that little voice, even if it's a micro voice, even if it's a quiet little voice, even if it's a little feeling in your tummy or in your brain or something that just says, nah, you're full of shit. You're full of shit. And you're just self-conscious, you're judging yourself, you're self-critical, you're in your own head, and then there are the times when you're not. You're just free, speaking freely, no judgment, no self-criticism, just going, like I feel like I'm going right now. And damn, what generates that place? I'm fascinated. I want to know. I don't know that I'll ever fully know the answer to that, but like I said, you can create the conditions to set the stage for it, but at the end of the day, what really generates this space?